Their seats, and we are going to convene our City Council business session for September 4th, 2018. May I have a roll call, please? A work session, I'm sorry.
Mr. Mayor, all present with the exception of Councilor McKinney. The District 1 seat is vacant at this time.
Anything on the consent calendar, please, ladies and gentlemen? Any other agenda item that you want to discuss? Yes.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Item number 8, I believe, on the agenda. Can we delete that? Why is it on there?
No.
Oh, we want to do that.
We'll leave it on the agenda.
Okay.
Number 8 is a recess.
Yeah.
We are not taking recesses off. Good question. Anything else? Any council business, please? Nothing for council business? You're stuttering in your mic, please.
I actually have two very brief items that I need to hear from staff.
Okay, I got you down. Anything else? With that, then I'm ready to turn the program over to Councilor Johnson as our chairman of the subcommittee dealing with the updating of our council rules, and I believe that would also include our city attorney. So, Councilor Johnson, with your mic on, the floor is yours.
Good evening. And I would also request that Councilor Essen and the mayor jump in if they feel like I'm missing some salient points, just as we move forward through the PowerPoint. And at your desk here, there's a couple of packets. I believe one is the changed council rules, and one is the redlined. Is that right?
The Truman Stone City Attorney.
Yes, go ahead.
No, redlined. Sorry.
The purple version is the version with the proposed changes. The orange version is the currently existing, the current version of the council rules.
That's why they have the dates on them. Alrighty. So as we go through, again, if you have questions about any of these points in the PowerPoint, please feel free to ask questions as we go. I do have the redlined version here.
Question, if I may.
Sure. Yes, sir. Yes.
Do we have extra copies for those that are in our audience? I can share those. Joe, here's another extra copy, but not with the fancy covers.
Alrighty, so to get moving, basically, Councilor Essen, the City Attorney Truman Stone, and the mayor and I spent 15 meetings kind of going through not only the League of Oregon Cities model rules that they provide on their website and in other places, but also our city charter and our current rules. And so under the charter, it says that the council will adopt council guidelines and rules by resolution to govern its meetings and procedures. The rules are to decide questions and give direction and are intended to serve as a guide for council. The guidelines address the relationship between councilors, between council and staff, and as well as the council and public, just so that way we kind of act as a team and as a body that agrees or disagrees. The original council rules and guidelines were adopted in 2007. Amendments were made in 2008, 2011, 2014, and 2015. There is a quote from the 2011 revision that says, "It is hoped that these rules will become guidance for future councils. These rules will be fluid and must be reviewed periodically. The council has full authority to alter rules and not abide by the rules when the judgment of the council, the best interest of the city and/or the public would be served. It is the intention of the council that these guidelines and rules not be static documents, but be reviewed periodically, expanded, and modified as needed. And so that's what we did. We began meeting in October of 2017, and we concluded a couple months ago, I think, or a month ago. And basically went line by line, chapter by chapter, through the charter, through the rules and also the model rules, and kind of tried to see what would work for us and what wouldn't. And then we'll just jump into the major changes that we want to kind of propose. So Rule 3, we added a new section, and that's under ethics and etiquette. And so basically under ethics, we just said we don't want counselors to disclose confidential information. We don't want counselors to express an opinion that's opposite of the council without letting us know first. So we're not, sideswiped or ambushed. And conduct themselves in a manner as to bring, we don't want them to conduct themselves in a manner as to bring disrespect among the government of the city. Then we move into etiquette, which is the next section. And basically we just, it's basic, do unto others type of stuff, honor. Yeah. I'm doing both of these at the same time. I'm not very good at it. Avoiding blame, acknowledge and respect differences, look for common ground, just kind of some rules of the road just so we all can try to get along. And then statements to outside organizations. We did want to kind of break out when a counselor is representing the city or the mayor. They probably should have, an official position or be approved by the majority of council before they go out and start pontificating about an issue that maybe we're split on. Have the bulk of us agree on the statement or the position. And then, we also wanted to outline that each of us has our own personal opinions. So I think it's good that if, you're speaking about a different side of an opinion, that you say it's your personal opinion and not that you're representing the city council. So, just kind of breaking that out.
I have a question.
Sure. Councilor McKinney?
You're talking about Rule 3 or whatever.
Yeah.
We don't have that presentation, do we?
You have the new rules.
I don't have my iPad with me. I'm coming from the beach.
Oh.
But
Well,
in here, in this,
uh-huh.
what page are you on?
What page am I on? Okay.
Because this is what we're going to vote on.
Yeah, correct.
Page 9?
Yeah. Page 9 and 10 is where we are.
Mr. Mayor, could I just
You may.
say one thing for clarity? So this is before you tonight in the work session. The resolution is not on tonight's agenda, but we'll come back to you at a subsequent meeting for actually consideration and approval. So this is the opportunity to talk through the process.
I'm just getting to the point. This is the document that will be amended.
Correct. That
unless
is
we amend this document.
the purple one is the subcommittee's proposed changes. The orange covered version are the current rules.
Some of your preliminary comments before, like, agreeing, or if council members disagreeing with something, you were talking about Rule 3. Is that in here somewhere too?
Yeah, that's all outlined in the etiquette and ethics and statement to other organizations, Rule 310. It's on page 10.
On page 10?
Yep, page 10. Rule 3.10. And the intent for tonight was kind of to just give everybody a quick overview, give you a copy of the new rules, and then we'd come back and, you know, go over what changes you guys would like or what changes you'd like to delete. Mostly this is just a proposal.
Do you want questions now about any of it, or?
We can if you'd like, yeah. I mean, we've got everybody in the room.
I think I'm going back to, if it's okay, I don't know, decorum here.
Check with you.
Am I okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Johnson's got
I have a question, and it might be what Councilor McKinney was kind of referring to. 3.8C.
3 what?
3.8C.
Page 9.
In purple. Expressing an opinion contrary to the official position of the council without so saying. I don't understand. It sounds to me like the council is going to have to agree on everything before they take any action, and I disagree with that.
And that's why in 3.10 we say that as long as you outline that it's your personal opinion, what we were trying to do is break out when something is a personal opinion and when you're speaking for the city council. So let's say a newspaper reporter calls you up and says, so what does the council think about this? You know, what I always do when I'm talking to the graphics is I say, hey, the majority voted this way last night. These are some of the arguments. My personal opinion is X. And so what we were trying to do is get away from maybe a person being quoted in the paper or talking to the public and saying, you know, this is what the council thinks, when that's not what the council thinks, you know, as a majority.
Okay, but I was looking on it as, you know, the council has to agree before they do anything, and that hopefully is not where we're headed on this.
That wasn't.
You know, one of the things I was thinking of was when I appeared before the County Board of Supervisors, and it had to do with an issue doing with landfill, and it was an issue before them, and I had to state that I had these opinions. I was on the city council, but this is my personal opinion. I didn't represent it as the city council's position. However, had I been there on behalf of the city council and I was stating their position, I would just state this is the council's position if I was advocating. So that was the difference, that if I was stating my own opinion, I had to make sure they knew that this wasn't the rest of the council's opinion, this is just my own personal opinion. Whereas there could be a situation where you're saying, I'm representing the council and this is what I say. I don't know how often that would happen, but that's the point we're trying to make, I think. So I just want to clarify that.
Quite often, the newspapers already listened to the meeting before, along the way, and they've already noted that during the discussion, several councilors might have an opinion contrary to what was actually voted on, and they're asking specific, I've had them ask me that, your specific objection to this particular point of view is blah, 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 blah. And I don't think that you want to tell a counselor or future counselors that they can't defend or hold to an opinion. Everybody knows what the vote was on there, because, you know, like the RCA or whatever, but that still doesn't mean that you agree with the RCA.
And so what I would say back to you is I believe these are rules that were pulled out of the League of Oregon Cities.
That's what, if I could.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
So as Councilor Johnson said, part of what the subcommittee did was go through model rules of procedure for council meetings, which were published by the League of Oregon Cities in March of 2017. So this was the League's attempt to try to put out some model rules on how councils might operate, remembering that most cities in Oregon have based their charter on a model charter that the League put together probably 15, maybe even 20 years ago now. So I think many, if not most, city charters have a similar provision that says that the council will adopt rules to govern, rules and guidelines to govern its operation. So the language that appears in 3.10 is word for word copied from the league's model rules. And if I could just add, you don't give up your First Amendment rights by being elected to the city council. So you clearly have a right to speak. I think the concern that's trying to be addressed is that people may not understand when you are speaking, whether you are representing an official position of the city or whether you're representing your own individual opinion or even a minority opinion of, say, the council. And what's, I think this rule tries to get at is there oftentimes is an official city position, and that should be what's represented if you're speaking for the city. And this could appear, for instance, as Councilor Essen said, if you're testifying before the county commission, board of commissioners, or at the legislature, or in some other representative capacity, versus if a citizen or a reporter or somebody interested just ask you what you think. And so the real important thing is not that you aren't able to speak, it's just that you are clear with people whether you're speaking as an official for the city representing the city's official position or whether you're speaking in some other capacity.
I think we all get that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
And when we speak in an official capacity as a member of this diet, we're going to represent whatever the final vote was, quote unquote. But that should never imply that there was vigorous debate on some particular issues, and there wasn't necessarily an agreement, carte blanche there, but it was just like Kim Thatcherdown says, I didn't agree, but it's the law, So I think that that's right here. So as long as this isn't an insistence upon us speaking with a uniform voice when there wasn't uniformity about the action, all right? But it's the etiquette portion of it would be there. And a good example of that is what happened with the animal shelter. There's still vigorous views about what happened with the animal shelter, but along the way, as long as it doesn't mean that we all have to cookie cutter to the same opinion all of the time, right here.
Could I follow on with that a little bit?
That's what I'm thinking here.
Can I just back up a step and remind you? So the charter requires that you adopt some sort of rules. These rules are really made to help you as a body, as a group, operate together. And so this isn't something that city staff or somebody's trying to force on you. These are how you together can operate as a council. And if you have concerns about some of these things, if they don't work within the group or whatever, then this would be a good time to discuss that.
Get it?
Okay, so moving on. I'm sorry. I'll move that for you. So then we'll move on to interactions with city manager and management, and that is rule point 3.11 on page 10. And basically, just to give you a brief overview, we're just asking, and again, this is all stuff straight from the league model rules they had. Basically not interfering with day-to-day administration of city business, which is the responsibility of the city manager. Refraining from an action that would undermine the authority of the city manager or management staff. Limiting the individual inquiries and requests for information from management to those questions that may be answered readily as part of a manager's day-to-day responsibilities.
Excuse
And-
me just a minute. You
Sure.
want to take your conversation outside, please? Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, and the city manager should be informed regarding questions of a more complex nature. So that's if you ask staff questions and it is going to take a whole bunch of staff time. Make sure the city manager is notified. Council members should normally share any significant information obtained from management staff with the rest of the council. And this doesn't apply to members, questions by council members acting in their individual capacities rather as members of the council, and nor to questions regarding conflict of interest or similar issues, particularly to a council member of the council. So there are times when during land use hearings, I'll call Truman or Doug and say, you know, hey, is this a conflict? And they'll say yes or no, and I don't need to inform all you guys of that. You know, that's basically what that rule says. But if it's something substantive about something upcoming, then, you know, share that out with the rest of you. And I think we're all pretty good about doing that already. We just wanted to outline it in the rules. Interactions with city attorney and legal staff, 3.12. That's on page 11. And that basically goes through that we can make requests of the city attorney as long as it's less than 2 hours of attorney time. Council members should understand that the city attorney must prioritize city legal issues and respond immediately to council requests. Requests for legal advice that require greater than 2 hours will require a concurrence of the majority of the council, and any special requests of legal staff should be addressed through the city attorney. So, yeah, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And then the mayor, we also put, Mayor Andrews felt it was important that the mayor not be a gatekeeper and doesn't screen council interactions with city staff. However, the mayor should be advised of significant issues that have been forwarded to the city personnel. So that's kind of where we're at with that one. Any questions on Rule 3 at this point? Okay, seeing none. We'll move on to 4.7, which is on page 12. And basically, this is just outlining some changes to the executive session and the fact that the 3 council members and presiding officer can ask for an executive session. So you don't necessarily have to have just the mayor ask for one, but the majority of folks can ask for an executive session. You know, so that was the big change there. We'll go to 5.6, public comment.
On 4.7.
Mike, please.
On 4.7.
Sure.
In the past, when we were calling for executive sessions, when we were having discussions about the particular group of executive sessions that were there, I seem to recall that the mayor mentioned that the president of the council could call a meeting. Do you recall that conversation?
Say that one again, please.
That a request for an executive council could also be called by the president of the council.
I cannot answer that.
I think I
So I
can.
remember in our conversation, you didn't want to be gatekeeper about those things, but
Truman, why don't you go ahead and...
So if you look currently, if you look at the beginning of Rule 4,
And that's in the gold copy, right?
no, well, we didn't change the part I'm,
Okay.
either one should be correct.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, I gave away my purple copy, so I'm looking at a prior draft that was in
2015.
there. Yeah, that would be fine. That would.
And you're looking at which one?
Well, if you look at, starting with Rule 4.1, 4.1 talks about the regular scheduled meetings. Then we have Rule 4.4, which talks about special meetings. And it says, special meetings may be called at any time upon the mayor's request or the request of 3 members of the council. So that's the current rule, and there was no proposed changes to that.
Is that for you? You wanted to, do you have a question? Oh, okay, cool. All righty, so Rule 5.6, public comment. Oh. Okay. Your mic? I've always wanted to say that to you.
McKinney's question, as I read the old one, I don't think it made a provision as to who could or couldn't, other than special meetings. And that may have been an alternative of the chair at that time. But Rule 4.7 in the previous council rules does not, the council may meet in executive session. Per this, the city attorney and the city manager will attend all executive sessions unless they are excluded, but it doesn't say who can convene it. And this is just given a little bit of additional clarification, so there's no question.
Mayor?
I think in
I think the only time I know that I've called an executive session or asked for it to be on the agenda had to do with employee reviews. That's when the president of the council would say, Mayor, I need an executive session to do the review of the city attorney.
Well,
that's different. But it's an executive session.
right.
If my memory is correct, your first two executive sessions when we were dealing with those issues is that I called those. The mayor said you can call those on your own, and then they led to the following meetings that are there. So I'm just saying that it seems that we have a recent precedent for that happening.
That is not, it is not supported by by the rules.
Well, maybe it is if you're talking about personnel. There's personnel issues addressed in here.
Ask your chair.
Are personnel issues addressed in here, and who can call the meeting?
We kind of went through, and that's the reason this is in there, so we can do things like you're talking about.
Yeah.
If we have a presiding officer like a council president and 3 other councilors, then we can call an executive session.
Well,
Just like that happened in the
There
past.
wasn't necessarily 3 other councilors.
Well.
All right?
Okay.
And I think that also in relationship to the Jackie Betts affair, there was some things that maybe it's not in here.
Okay. All righty.
Anyway, just pointing that out is that we have some history about called meetings that doesn't necessarily looks like it's addressed in your revisions. They're part
Well,
of
we're
the precedent,
not
but they're not in here.
And your mic isn't on, and we're not all the way through.
Here either. On and off.
And what I would say again is, after you have a chance to read these and review them, please send notes to city staff, and we can look at a new version. Again, this is why it took 15 meetings, as we were back and forth over all this stuff. So, all righty. So, Rule 5.6. The big rule changes here, and we're on page 13 now in your revised copy. The big changes. Oh, whoops, sorry. Got too many. See, this is. I can't walk and chew gum at the same time. I'm proving it tonight. So basically, the changes for Rule 5.6 is we establish guidelines for the public providing electronic presentations, such as PowerPoint presentations. If a member of the public wants to come in, like let's say the chamber when they do their quarterly report, or somebody wants to come in and talk to us about any number of issues, and they have a PowerPoint, we establish some rules on when they need to have those in and that type of thing. And then we outline the process for extending the public comment period. And that's if there should be more speakers than can be heard during the 30 minutes allowed for public comment, the presiding officer, that's the mayor or the city council president, if the mayor isn't available, may sort the request to speak in order to afford the greatest opportunity for the topic to be heard, or may extend the content period. So that way, if we get a bunch of people in with a bunch of different topics, we can extend that 30 minutes out if it's the will of the council.
I was confused previously by Stephen's, what his comments were. If he wants to make a change, it is potential he can make that suggestion at this time? Is that what you were saying? In other words, if you wanted that to be in the rules, the issue that you said was missing, did you want him to be in? I'm confused.
I'm no longer council president. I'm going to be gone in July, or, January the 5th, but I don't want to impair future council presidents, or whatever it is, from the opportunity to afford themselves to the same precedent that we've already had or used here. I don't think it's up to me. It's up to you guys. You're making the revisions here. I'm just pointing out is that in relationship to recent history and some other things, there appears to be a hole, vacancy. Can you turn your mic out, please? I'm going to be leaving the council. I don't want to impair any future presidents of councils from the opportunity to be able to do this. It seems to be established by some recent precedent that we've had here. I know that took place by council members during the dismissal of Jackie Betts. During our past executive sessions, there were some things that are going there. So I'm just saying that it's not up to me, Scott. It's up to you guys. If you want to put it in there, great. If not, and I understand that the League of Oregon Cities, has a document here. We have a model after that or whatever, but the League of Oregon Cities document is not our law. It's only a suggestion.
So, are we good?
Good.
Okay.
Councilor Johnson, please.
Yeah. Did you have something, or Mr. Mayor? Did you have something?
Councilor Essen raised the question. Do you happen to have a copy of the charter handy?
Of course I do, Mayor.
Would you read the statement about the council president, the role of the council president?
Well, Chapter 3, Section 10, City Council President. At its first meeting each year, the City Council must elect a president from its membership. The president presides in the absence of the mayor and acts as mayor when the mayor is unable to perform duties.
Thank you. The rule that you are looking at proposed is speaking of the presiding officer. That may be the mayor, that may be the council president, and it may be somebody, if neither of those are available, that you designate. So that presiding officer now has that prerogative under the new rule.
Yeah, I wasn't debating any of that. I'm just saying.
Light, please. Light.
I'm not debating any of that. I'm just saying is that it seemed to me is that when in those recent meetings that we called, is that I recall you guys saying you have the authority. I was the council president. You have the authority to call those first.
Technically, you do not by the charter, but it was allowed, and that could have been. This clarifies that, does it not?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
That's the point. We wanted to clarify that issue.
Okay.
So we have. I
Right.
hope.
Well, I hope so too, because your existing council president at this particular point in time is under the impression that a council president can call some of those meetings when it comes to
I asked the mayor.
education. All right. Anyway.
And the council president does have a role in managing the evaluations of the three employees of the council.
I don't want to play the devil's advocate here, but is that the law for us? Is that document that you just read for,
That's the charter.
Was that the charter or was that the LOC's
That's the
recommendation?
charter that he just read.
I read from the city charter, but can I just make a statement I think might help narrow this debate or clarify this? The charter, remember, is adopted by the voters. You must follow the charter. You have no option to change that. The council rules are your rules. These are self-imposed procedural agreements and guidelines on how the council is going to operate. And there's also provisions in here that even if the council doesn't strictly follow the rules, it doesn't invalidate the actions. The quote that I added to the slide that says, if the council feels the rules are constricting and not operating in the city or the public's interest, you're kind of free to operate differently. So just remember, these are not, this is not the law. These are your own agreement on how you will interact together to function as a governing body.
All righty. So, 5.6, page 13. Basically, this is about public comment. Again, electronic materials, multiple speakers, allowing for more time, or setting up a process for allowing for more time if the council wants to do that. And then the final one, F, is another addition, which basically says councilors may, upon recognition of the mayor, presiding officer, ask questions of speakers during the public comment. Councilors shall use restraint when exercising this option and shall attempt to limit questions to no more than 3 minutes. The mayor or presiding officer may intervene if a councilor is violating the spirit of this guideline. So that's the final one that we're proposing. Any questions, concerns, debate?
Yes, I do have a question. You and I and Scott received an email regarding testimony. And does that fit in here where we have public comments, or is that in another area for testimony?
I think
5.6.
5.6. So did I skip it?
No.
Okay.
I think it's in 5.6.
Okay.
Let's ask.
And they were asking that we as a council consider changing what is in there. And if you look, I think, try either Cap A or Cap B, I believe.
Okay.
Or Cap D, for that matter.
It's
Do you have a copy of that email?
I probably do somewhere in here.
Let me read it if I may.
Go right ahead. I missed that one.
Mr. Mayor, you're
Just
May I just go ahead and
Yeah,
read it?
yeah,
and
go
get it
ahead.
in the
Yeah, go
record?
ahead. Yeah.
It was asked that the council rules of the rules subcommittee, can the council add a change to the council rules, moving the submitted time for testimony from Monday at 12 noon to Tuesdays just before the meeting. I'm sorry, to Thursdays just before the meeting.
Mm-hmm. So basically, the city staff would like to have testimony, written testimony, in Thursday instead of the Monday before.
Yeah.
Okay,
Instead of having it be in by Monday,
that day.
no.
Yeah.
Monday a week before the meeting
Mm-hmm.
to Thursdays just before the meeting.
Is that right?
Am I correct?
I thought it was the other way around.
No, I think what people are doing now is bringing
They're
it.
waiting until Monday.
Yeah.
And you want to advance it so that they have it in by Thursday.
Yeah, and
Thank
so
you.
that's a little less convenient for the public. But what it does is that we have, to run this part of the meeting, there's one person. So Sue's got to do all that. And what we're trying to do is still allow her to have, breaks and lunch on the Fridays. And so it is inconvenient for the public. It's pushing it to like Thursday. But then she's got all of Friday to get that all ready for council. Because on Mondays, we've had times when, in order to split her schedule, so she's been splitting her schedule, that runs into some very strange things on Monday. Say, don't do that. That's the request.
That's the request that's in, Mr. Councilor Johnson. And I would move that
Well, we can't do that.
discuss that.
Okay, can we discuss that?
Previous councils have already stipulated it had to be that Thursday day, not that Monday day. Because there's been testimony in the past that we have not received because it wasn't received on the Thursday before the Monday. And so that's kind of been, I'm surprised that it hasn't been enforced then, if that's the case here, because when I've asked people, they went talk about written testimony and everything, I've always informed people that had to be in the Thursday before the Monday meeting. Now, I know that previous councils in previous years, that's been the understanding when we were dealing with some tough issues. It had to be here Thursday before the Monday.
Mayor?
I'm surprised to hear that this Monday stuff is slipping through.
The difference,
Yeah, go ahead.
it's okay. So the difference is, one is like when you have hearings and when they have to submit stuff and you have it. The other one, it's almost ad hoc, but they know they're going to bring it in. A good example might be the plastic bag folks are coming in. We just say, if you've got a PowerPoint, it's something that you want to do and show the council, bring it in early so that we can make the copies and get it loaded. There'd be one argument that said, hey, you know, I come the day of, I get X amount of time to present. No one's arguing with that. They're going to do it. But if you're here and you go, oh, well, I've got a PowerPoint and I want like a little over 5 minutes to make a presentation, we've been bending to that. So
That was like a chamber thing.
Let's go with Truman and then we'll go with Sue. Can we do that?
Just to be clear, the way the rule is currently written, 5.6 A and B, which are non-agenda items and consent calendar and agenda items other than consent calendar, currently say that people have to submit any written comments or testimony not later than noon on the day of the meeting. And then subsection C says anything received after the deadline will only be accepted by affirmative vote of the majority of the council. Those were not changed in the subcommittee's proposal. What changed was we were adding D to talk about electronic materials, because if somebody brings in a PowerPoint at noon, there's insufficient time to make sure that the technology matches and that it's not full of viruses and all that and get it loaded. So that was what the change is. Addressing Councilor McKinney's comment, this date has gone back and forth in the time that, in the 5 years now that I've worked here, and we've monkeyed with it a couple times.
It doesn't appear in here. Yes, it does.
It does.
Where? On page 10.
Rule 5.6, page.
That's public comment. I'm talking about public testimony. With public comment, there's been numerous times to where you voted to accept people to be able to present what they've brought, written or whatever, and given it to Sue. I've been in those meetings where you accepted testimony from public comment.
It's titled public comments. It's not specifically addressed at the public comment section of the agenda. It's public commenting on either non-agenda items, which would be during the public comment section, or things that are on the agenda, so they would be making comments specific to those agenda items. So this rule covers both of those situations, and the current rule that's been this way for at least several years, I can't, 2015 I think, is noon on Monday.
You're late. Please, Stephen.
The current rule is noon on Monday of the meeting. And that's what has been the way it's been operating for several years now.
So, Mr. Chairman, there's another ambiguity.
Okay,
That-
so I think what
That's
we,
not clear.
Okay.
And if it's been
So-
jumping back and forth for 5 years,
what,
on primary testimony about the Thursday before or whatever.
okay,
And I do know that we have accepted public comments the night of the meeting.
Okay.
So all we've done is voted on that to accept it, or whatever. That probably should show up.
No, it's
that's
still allowed.
still allowed.
Okay, all
So
right.
I guess what I'd like to do.
I'm just saying that the
Stephen-
conversation doesn't reflect those black words on these white
Okay, so I guess
pieces.
what we should do then, Stephen, or Counselor McKinney, is I think because we have 15 minutes left, I'm going to burn through this PowerPoint. I'm going to hit all these stops. You can use this PowerPoint that's in your Granicus as a roadmap to go through and read through all these, and then we can have another work session where you can ask your questions or ask your questions when we bring this up. Because if we keep doing it this way, we're going to be at this all night. So I think that's what we're going to do. Use the PowerPoint as kind of a bookmark where we made major changes. You have both versions. Read them. Come back with a zillion questions. I know I did when we went through this, and that's why it took us 15 meetings. Oh, and City Recorder.
So, a point of clarification, it has been 12 noon on Mondays, the day of the meeting. The problem is not so much my schedule, but I have certain players who know the system, and they will send stuff at 11:57 a.m. And that is not fair to you to have time to read it. So what I try and do is if I have additional written testimony or public comment, I try and do a supplemental packet on Fridays, so you at least have it ahead of the weekend. If we have gotten stuff in after 12 noon, then I forward it to you electronically, and I also bring you paper copies, and that's the point at which you've had to vote on things. So just wanted to clarify. The thing about having people bring in flash drives, our AT department is very not cool with having people just hand me a flash drive at the meeting and insert it into our system. So I just wanted to clear those 2 points up. Thank you.
All righty, so we're just going to go through this real quick, and then we'll schedule another meeting for this. So we'll go to Rule 7, Procedures at Meetings, added counselor and council and staff guidelines, and specifics are in the following slides. This Rule 7 is pages 17 through 20. Okay. Rule 7.8, debate. There were some changes in this. Every counselor is allowed to speak before a counselor speaks for a second time. 5-minute limit to counselor comments each time they speak. Only questions during staff presentations and not, comments. Speak and act respectfully of others of council and staff. And council mayor, who made the motion, has the privilege of starting and closing the debate. So those are things that were in the League of Oregon Cities rules, and also ones that we kind of agreed on that would be a good way to, and we can have a debate on that at a later date. Crosstalk, 7.9. This applies to both verbal and electronic, and all communications during the public meeting is a public record. We wanted to remind everybody of that. So if you text somebody, if you email somebody during the meeting, that is a public record. No electronic messages between counselors, trying to stop, if counselors are texting each other or whatever. And no passing of notes, because those notes are also public record. And I've personally witnessed a couple times where counselors have passed notes, and then a reporter in the room will say, I want to see that note, and it's fairly embarrassing. So we're just trying to set some rules of the road for maybe new folks that are coming on council. 7.19, how to testify. There is an outline procedure of how to testify, and it includes definitions of the different types of hearings, and it outlines how council should regard the public who testifies, and it added an Exhibit 5 to the back of the rules for the public to see guidelines in an easy-to-read manner. So it's this right here with the graphics. So. And I think we've all seen that on the PowerPoint before the meetings recently, and Rosa put that together. So I thought that was pretty cool, and we should add it into the rules. So, Councilor Essen. Rule 8, enforcement of council rules. What happens if we break the rules? No, they don't take away our birthday, but we did add a procedure if the mayor and council president are absent. Also, there's a censure category with consequences for violating the council rules. And there's also an outline for executive sessions regarding discussion of violations of council rules with one of the council members. We had seen recent, and Truman, if you want to chime in, recent media accounts of councilors behaving badly, and kind of use those as our guide, and also League of Oregon City model rules on this section, just to make sure that if there is an unfortunate mess, that we have the tools in place to handle that. So, and that is the end. So, I guess, Mr. Mayor, I'd put the ball kind of in your court and how you want to proceed with this. It seems like there's a lot of questions about specific rule changes, and maybe give council an opportunity to read through these and send us some Scribner notes, and then maybe have another meeting. Does that sound appropriate?
You passed the ball, but my mitt hasn't caught it yet.
Question for Patrick. Exhibit 1, Exhibit 2, Exhibit 3, 4, and 5, are these exhibits new, or is this something that council has seen before?
Most of the exhibits in here are already in the council
Right.
rules. It's the number 5 that I believe we added. We may have made some minor edits to the others, but it was mostly, like typos and
Scribner,
things. Yeah.
Scribner errors?
Yeah.
Was there any points added,
To the other.
numerical points?
No.
Councilor Johnson.
Yes.
Exhibit the
He's gonna tell me.
outlines for the different types of hearings, which are Exhibit 1, 2, 3, and 4. There were no changes at all. It was merely the addition of Exhibit 5.
Thank you.
Still in your court.
No, he's, that's passing a note, and that's against the.
That note has already been discussed.
Okay,
There's the reporter in the room.
yeah,
It was email received by
Okay.
you all on the subcommittee.
yeah,
And it's one that we had a discussion on about public comment.
yeah.
So you have that for your record
Okay.
on that.
Thank you.
You passed it all. I'm not satisfied that this group is ready to sit down and have a thumbs up, thumbs down.
Mhm.
I'm looking at the forward-looking calendar, and I think there needs to be some discussion with the city manager as to where and how we could get this in, because if we're going to continue to proceed as we were, we're going to probably need maybe even a special work session to get this ironed out. Either that or we just kick the can down the road. So I will be in discussions with the city manager, and we will be getting back to you.
Okay.
I have a question for the mayor then. When you say kick it down the road, you mean following the election?
Following something.
I mean, make it
I
applicable?
don't know.
Make it
I'm
applicable?
I'm looking at the availability
Okay.
in here of having to sit down, and we'll have to see where it can fit in with what are the priorities that are seen to be that the council needs to deal with. So I really don't know. I would like to get it out of the way and have it in place. That's my earnest hope. Is that all right, city manager? All right, okay. Is there anything else to come before the council? You had a couple of items, Councilor Corey, did you want to take care of that now before we go into business session?
Sure, it's just, just like 4 minutes.
Go right
3
ahead.
minutes. I would just like to ask staff if there's been any dates set for the town hall meetings for the public to attend on the budget and clarification of what might be done with the budget.
There hasn't, it's on the topic for the 17th, when we bring back stuff. I'll basically tell you that we'll come back, show the public, we had a list of where the public education campaigns. I'm leaning now, just so you know, but I know council wanted us to go forward, and we talked about the last time, of whether you want to continue, as we first recommended, of the voting in May or in November. So I'll bring back, money-wise, we could hold off to November, but I'll show you with the material from WACA and an outline. It just says here are what town halls. They can either incur in advance of the one in May or in advance of same time frames for November.
Okay, follow on.
Follow on.
I guess we're tying two things together then. The WACA dispatch discussion, I thought that was a separate issue that we were going to take up as a council.
You are.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why I'm bringing back to you on the 17th.
Oh, the
2 weeks
17th?
from tonight.
Oh, of December,
Yeah.
September. Okay.
Yeah, the only reason we didn't have it before is because I didn't have it yet.
Okay.
But she said, I
Okay.
said, really get it, can you get it to us? And they're
Okay.
working hard to get it to us. by
That
the
was my
7th.
second council business. That was my second question. So back to the first question again, the town hall, knowing that we have to get it out to the public way in advance so
Right.
that they're aware of it. We don't want to
So what I have
do
is,
2 weeks. Okay, now we're having
Right.
the town hall.
so I have a
That's-
schedule of what a public information campaign would be. And we had it the last time, we kind of talked about it, but like 2 of those and the focus groups and the survey, and it shows as a calendar. The point is that can happen in advance of a May, or if you choose to, it can happen in advance of a November election. But at the last meeting, the council said, well, and it was kind of split, there weren't that many people, bring it back as if it's May.
Anything else to come before the council in this work session? None appearing, we'll be at recess and we'll reconvene at 7:05.
over some of the items that were emailed to you and to the press and to KYLC. Last week was a lot of, the last 2 weeks been a lot of interaction public and some public events. The mayor and I attended the George Fox dedication, so this is, you know, with Public Works and planning, with some of the folks that are here tonight. Spent a long time helping Fox make that a reality. Beautiful facility for students, open just as the students are coming in. So the mayor was asked to come and just do short remarks on that. It was just good. It's another part of the partnership between the city and Fox for their students. And then likewise with some of the planners that are here tonight, wherever they are again, we also had the Riverfront Master Plan meeting at Edwards. And it was a decent turnout, probably around 30 people there. And they had a chance to hear a little bit of the vision and look at some storyboards that were there. Part of that leads into another discussion that we are setting up a meeting with the mayor, staff, Doug and I, and Senator Wyden's staff to just talk about the waterfront in some of the perspectives of the city, and particularly where the waterfront or the riverfront master plan fits with some of the plans that are there. We also spent some time, a couple of letters of support of different grants. One is to Travel Oregon for the Wine Day. It's the chambers submitting money for Travel Oregon. It's even though they're not, you know, we're kind of moving in an evolution of the marketing. This year they've submitted a grant request to try to leverage some money that the city through the chamber and Dundee will come out with the state to bring more people here as a wine event. And then we also submitted letters of support for the Historical Society, and this is two of their officers, Barbara Doyle and the archive, Rachel Thomas, the archivist at Fox, and they're submitting grants, and they have a pretty good chance of them to install anywhere from 4 to 12 of these interpretive display boards about different things in the city, and it also rolls right into our walking tour. So we're pleased about that. Also, another public event, attended the ribbon cutting and opening of Villa Road. So most of that is complete, all the road surfaces. We have some more sidewalks that have to be completed, but that was very well attended. It was on Friday, just after the greeters, so that was a good thing. And then the mayor and
hold it just a moment. We've had a request from the councilor. Sue, can we take the discussion outside, please? We're having a little difficulty hearing.
Just two quick ones.
Go right ahead, city manager.
The other one is with the mayor and Rosa. We've now created, much like, I don't know if you've seen, I think it's Good Morning America, where the Al Roker, who does Smucker's jams for everyone that turns 100. Well, we're about ready to roll out our first one on, I think it's the 25th of this month, that we now have a city design, and courtesy of Saint Corsair, who bought out Barry Noir, that we'll have for anyone, and people can just nominate a person. We have our own label onto a jam of Marionberry, Oregon Marionberry jam, that has their name and 100 years just from the city to them, and with the courtesy of St. Corsair. So we'll start that for the first time. So we'll put it on the website, and anyone can nominate somebody that turns 100. And we've also put links in there, and in this case, we've asked the governor's office to write a letter, congratulations, you've reached your 100th birthday, so for other people can do that. So very pleased with that. Last one is just a reminder, put onto your calendars if you can, and I'll send one out to you, but on Thursday, September 20th, so that's coming up pretty soon at 6 p.m., Representative Bonamici is having a town hall meeting at PCC. So we have a lot of things going on in the federal government and some issues, including she has shown a keen interest in what happens at West Rock also. Mr. Mayor?
Any questions or comments, Councilor McKinney?
With the permission of the mayor, could we do one of the celebrations, the 100-year celebration? Could we do the first one or two of them during a council meeting to highlight that in addition to what will be on the website? I think that's just a spectacular idea.
We'd be glad to do it. I'm not sure the person, and the mayor knows this person, it's from his church that we found. But yeah, if we can get one that feels up to coming down here, we'd love that. So
We will take it under advisement, but thank you for the idea. Any other questions or comments for the city manager? None appearing, then we move to public comments. I have one individual that is signed up to talk to us on, well, maybe not. We are recessed for a moment. What do we got there? The public comment area. I have before me a request to talk to us about some open space, and I had three people that realized that we had closed the record on the mobile park and wanted to talk to us during the public comment period, but I am consultation with our city attorney. The record has been closed, and for any comment to be made on that, we're going to have to reopen the record. So that will be up to the council for any comments regarding the Newberg Mobile Home Park, which is yet to come on our agenda, which will be following the consent calendar that we have. So with that clarification, we have on our public comment period is a time for somebody to address us on issues that are not on the agenda, maybe on the consent calendar, but are not other items for debate on the or consideration on our agenda. We limit the time to a 5-minute presentation. We ask that you confine your remarks to that. When your name is called, we invite you to come forward. Push the button, on silver button on the right of the microphone. State your name and make your presentation. So with that, I'm going to call on a Nancy Angelo. Please come forward.
Newberg would be really
Would you
benefited.
state your name, please, for the record?
I'm sorry.
We're recording it, and that's why we need
Okay.
it. Thank you.
Nancy Angelo.
Thank you. Very good. Continue.
Okay. Newberg would really benefit greatly by having large amounts of green space, primarily a sizable park near the waterfront that would include hiking trails, covered areas for parties, receptions, and music venues. And this could stimulate income. Another ideal location is a controversial defunct mill area. Oregon, primarily Portland and the surrounding cities, are rapidly losing the lush natural green, environmentally enriched reputation that we have had. Development of housing, businesses, wineries, and eateries proliferate at a seemingly reckless speed. Cities and towns are becoming like cookie-cutter communities in their similarities. Uniqueness is being lost. A question for development is, when is enough enough? Newberg is at an important juncture in making land use decisions. I am pleading with all those who are responsible for such decisions to consider the genuine well-being of all ages and interests of its population. An invitingly attractive, sizable park, and not just for picnicking or play area, could be a much-needed destination with real walking trails, miles of them, that someone could really enjoy the green and the lushness that we have here in this state. So I would suggest that we look to the city of Salem as a model for its innovation of the riverfront park. It is definitely an attraction, and it's very, very much used. Thank you.
Any questions or comments for Ms. Angelo?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Torrey?
Yeah, I appreciate your comments. Very, very well taken. There is a riverfront master plan committee meeting regularly now, and certainly the green space is under discussion, and trails and those kinds of things are under discussion as part of that whole plan. So, but I appreciate your comments.
Okay, good.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor McKinney?
It should be noted that Chehalem Park and Recreation had us a considerable plan for walking trails that are the miles and the miles that you're talking about. It would be good for you to make a contact with the CPRD, Chehalem Park and Recreation District, and let them know of your hopes and desires for something like that. They are not encumbered by just the city limits because there's many things that they can do even on the county that's there too. So it would be important for them to hear your hopes and desires for parks. And of course, you know, we only own how many parks? 1, 2, maybe 3 that are pretty small. But Chehalem Park and Recreation are responsible for nearly every one of the major parks in the city and around the city.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it
Okay.
very much.
Thank you.
And do follow up the suggestion.
I will.
And
Thank
meet
you
with
very
Chehalem
much.
Park and Rec. Yes, thank
Okay.
you. With that, I'm going to then move to the consent calendar. Pleasure of the council. Councilor Bacon?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we accept a consent calendar.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt the consent calendar. I changed your word in there a
Thank
little bit. Is there any further discussion? There being no further discussion, the question's been called for. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. None appearing. The consent calendar is adopted. And with that, we move now to continued business. And we are now looking at the second reading of Ordinance 2018-2839, which is an ordinance amending the comprehensive plan map designation from medium-density residential MDR to high-density residential HDR and amending zone designation from R2 medium-density residential to R3 high-density residential for property located at 501 and 507 East Illinois, Yamhill County Tax Lot R3218DB 03900 and R3218DB 03800. This is the second reading. We had a public hearing on this. The public hearing was closed and the record was closed as of the last meeting, and we are now ready to have our second reading on this particular ordinance 2018-2839. I would ask for a staff report, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
just a reminder on the council.
Thank you.
If you're following the quasi-judicial land use public hearing procedure, which the city has previously adopted, we are on step 9, which is deliberation by the council. So we're beyond the presentation from the staff and the recommendation.
Thank you. I accept that. We do have, and this is for council deliberation, we do have 4 people that have signed up that wanted to talk to you about this particular Newberg Mobile Home Park, and we have one individual brought in some material that they wanted to have you take a look at regarding this. The record is closed, so in order to either accept the testimony and or the oral or written testimony, we would need to have council approval. So, pleasure of the council.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Essen.
I move that we open the record and allow testimony and further information.
It's been moved and seconded to reopen the record. Is there any further discussion?
Call for the question.
The question has been called for. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Aye. We have a split on that, so we're not opening. Let us make sure we have it properly documented. Would you give me a roll call, please?
Councilor Essen?
Aye.
Councilor Bacon?
No.
Councilor McKinney?
Aye.
Councilor Corey?
No.
Councilor Johnson? Mayor Andrews?
No.
So 2-4.
2-4, okay. So we are not going to open the record, and I will give these materials back to the city recorder.
I'll take it.
Thank you. So with that, as you have received the guidance from the city attorney, we are at the council deliberations, which will include any discussion of the criteria and the findings of fact. So with that, I will open it up to a discussion on the issue of whether to adopt ordinance 2018-2839, doing a change of designation. amending the comprehensive plan. I'm going to kick this off to get us started, okay? All right. I have some real mixed emotions, real mixed feelings on this one. However, one, I'm seeing this as a step and not the doomsday that is imminent 24 hours from now, but as a step in a direction for some future action by amending the comprehensive plan that will at some future time provide for changes in the use of that particular land, moving it from medium density to a high density. But that doesn't mean that it's going to happen immediately. I do believe it's inevitable. I see some things going on within the evolution of housing in the city of Newberg, which may very well mitigate the concerns in the not too distant future. So I think I'm empathetic to the issue of at least seeing a plan change from the designation of medium to high density, but I'm not approving any plans or anything else at this time. Councilor Essen.
I was concerned about some of the testimony, and my understanding is that a good portion of our affordable housing is in the mobile home parks, and that this opens up, this action will open up not just this mobile home park, but several other ones in which it would make sense to do high density, high rise. And of course, whenever it's not the developers who are responsible. Their job as capitalists is to do the highest and best use of their property, which generally means develop it if you can. So we're allowing that. So my concern is, how does this affect our, and basically, I'm not really quite sure, but I think we have a plan to have low-cost housing, or we want low-cost housing. I think that's what we want. And yet, it looks like we'll be taking a good portion of our low-cost housing using our current plan out of existence. And fortunately for the owners of the mobile home park, for the tenants, we have in this particular case, a property owner and potential developer, or someone that wants to develop, that wants to give them apparently up to 5 years, which is not required. They have to give them up to a year. But that's fortunate. But on the other hand, I feel sorry for, at one point I thought to myself a real smart move would be to buy a mobile home, move into a mobile home park, and I would have very low costs, and I could take that money maybe and buy a vacation home on the ocean or somewhere, and that would be a good way to go. But it turns out if I had made that move, then I'd have to be making some other move at this point. And I just don't know if that's really where we want to go. So I'm, in a way, responding with the mayor, saying that down the road, we are going to address this, or at least I hope so, because address the issue of the fact that we may be taking out in an unintended, I assume it's unintended, to take out a lot of low-cost housing to put in high-rise apartments. And that's an unintended consequence of what I don't think the council intended. Well, certainly I didn't intend. I didn't see it coming. So I'm just wondering, and I don't know if I can ask staff or whatever, was that an intended consequence that we'd be taking out a lot of mobile homes to put in high intensity apartments, and how is that going to affect our stock of affordable housing, which I thought we were trying to keep, when in fact it looks like we're going to lose a bunch. So I just like to know, okay, we approve this. I guess one of the findings is does that meet our goals? Is that our goal, to lower the amount of affordable housing by putting zoning into effect that will essentially assures we're going to lose a lot of it? And there's just a lot of questions I don't know, and I don't know how to fix it. But I know that we have pushed for high-rise apartments, and makes sense, so with that in mind, I just have a question. I have a question about whether or not this does meet our overall goal, and we're going in the right direction. I don't know who can answer that question, but that's my problem with this.
Are you directing the question to staff?
Yes. I would like to, yeah. That's the question. Are we meeting our goal?
Please identify yourself, Cheryl.
So Cheryl Keynes, Senior Planner, City of Newberg. So there are overall reaching goals of providing housing at all different levels of cost and for different levels of incomes. So this particular move from lower density to higher density, in this case, we're looking at it from the needs standpoint for the entire city. And so that would be addressed by the fact that, yes, if this site were redeveloped, it could be redeveloped with all different types of housing. It could be apartments, or it could be townhomes, but it could be affordable housing, or it could be market rate housing. We just don't know at this point. And so there are a lot of different goals regarding housing for the city, not just affordable housing. It also has to do with, number of units. And so I think one of the things that the city is doing to address affordable housing issue is looking at that on a broad scale through their Affordable Housing Commission. And so, and rather than looking at it on a site-specific type of I guess viewpoint. It's looking at what are the needs across the city and looking for opportunities, maybe not in this location, but are there other opportunities in other sites throughout the city, or through other means of like code amendments or comp plan amendments that would encourage or lead to the development of affordable housing in a different location.
Follow on?
Follow on.
I sent a email that to the entire council, which talked about the fact that rents are going up statewide 70%, and that income is going up, and not for those that have fixed income, but for just people working, perhaps 7% over that same period of time. So that makes affordable housing sort of a, well, what would I say? An unfindable animal of some type, maybe a unicorn. So with that in mind, I know that there's all kinds of ways of addressing that, and one of the ways is rent control, and there's all kinds of ways that could be addressed at some point. And I'm not proposing rent control. I'm just saying, are there other ways that we can address the fact that what I'm hearing is these people certainly won't be living in Newberg anymore. They might be able to find something somewhere. I'm not sure if they can move in the state, but Alabama, I don't know. So that's my concern. So are there any options available that we could possibly consider, I guess, is my other question, besides, like, for instance, rent control?
Mr. Mayor,
City Attorney, and then Councilor Bacon.
I'm a little concerned about what I heard Councilor Essen just say about sending an email to the council. And I think for clarity of the record, we need to know whether that was in response to this specific application or if that's a referral to an email that was sometime in the past and just general policy discussion.
No, it wasn't specific to this policy at all. It was just a piece of information about what is going on with housing in general. And it was from a political party that had sent me a report of what's going on with housing, but wasn't specific to this issue. In other words, it was, and nobody responded, by the way, and I asked that nobody did respond. So it was just passing on an information about what housing costs are doing.
I would just point.
I think one of the points is the record's closed. Go ahead.
Right. I would just point out that if that's at all being considered by the council as part of this decision, it needs to be in the record. You need to reopen the record and give people an opportunity to respond to that information.
I'm not asking that it be considered part of this at all. It's a point of information that housing costs are going up. I don't think that's a news flash to anybody. But no, I wouldn't ask that that be considered.
Councilor Bacon.
These are the hardest things for me because my heart really wants to vote one way, but it's unfortunate, that we didn't take care of this years ago, and I pledge that I'm going to take care of it in the future. But, the law for us is pretty clear. We have to base our decision on the findings, and I found nothing in the findings that lets me vote with my heart. I have to vote with the law.
Councilor McKinney?
I appreciated the city councilor's admonition to us about testimony. Pat, you're welcome to come up into the front row. Maybe you can hear a little bit better along the way.
I think the discussion is with the council, not with Pat.
So, I too am torn over this issue. 3 weeks ago, before our first meeting, I was very, very sympathetic to those in the park. What are there, 35? Is it, how many? 25 in the park there. And I too am torn between the findings and the decision then that we're left with here. And of course, at the last meeting, you might recall I got a pretty good tongue lashing from one particular resident that was over there, and I was in sympathy with that particular resident and the plight that they find themselves. I find myself, because of the finding, voting in favor of the RCA tonight and supportive of that. I am glad to know that you guys have pledged yourself to 5 years. I saw the heads down there, so that in the meantime we can get through some of these issues here. Future mayors are going to have some difficulties in relationship to some of this question that was here. And I think one of my responses to Councilor Essen is that there is no such thing as affordable housing. Affordable housing is a euphemism. The only thing that in terms of market-driven, in terms of housing, that's inventory. But the rental market, that is something that is completely different in relationship to our discussion tonight. Very, very difficult for a developer to come into our community and build rentals because the cost is so exorbitant. So even though I am very much in sympathy with the plight of these 25 and was inclined, had I voted 2 weeks ago, I would have voted in favor with you, but I too, like Councilor Bacon, have discovered that we have to make our decision on the findings, and the findings going to lead us to the acceptance of this particular RCA.
Other comments? Councilor Corey? Councilor Johnson?
Well, yeah, Councilor Corey, I think it was very well explained with Councilor Essen's question, and it leaves no doubt in my mind, and already in the findings, it says the city demonstrated a need for high HDR. So that's conclusive enough for me in the findings. It's there. And we also know that we do have a goal as a council to build affordable housing. And I agree, that's a running euphemism, but it's something that we've concentrated on for at least the last 4 years. And we've had committees meeting about that issue. And I think this is part, or what, in my mind, those findings came in part from those discussions.
Councilor Johnson.
I'm going to echo much of what the rest of the city council has talked about. I came into this with two fairly big concerns, and that was transportation in the intersections on either end of Illinois, and also the different types of affordable housing. Because we have a goal 8, encourage affordable housing, and manufactured homes are part of that mix, and how best to protect a certain type of affordable housing, and trying to plan for the future, and what is the best fit for the community in that spot, while following our own land use law rules, has been something that for the last 2 weeks I've been kind of chewing on. I will say that from a land use perspective, the Planning Commission and city staff did an excellent job providing us all the information we needed in making a difficult decision easier, because we could read it and understand that, look, here are the rules of the road. They've met all of these criteria. If we're going to be moving forward, we need to make sure that we follow our own rules. And so that's why I'm going to be supporting this ordinance tonight.
Councilor Essen?
Well, for everybody's understanding, and I understand that we can't expect those out there that own property to look at the rules and see that, well, it looks like, according to the rules, that what would work for us would be to go ahead and put in high density over what we've got now. So it'd be difficult at this point to say, no, you can't do that, because they followed the rules and they followed our what they were supposed to do. They've had the procedures, we've got the findings we're supposed to find. Our decision is, have they met the goals? Has the commission come before us with the proper findings, and we are to confirm them. I thought I heard that we had a commitment to look forward to see if there's something to be done about this. But unfortunately, I just can't vote yes on this, so I'm going to vote no, because I think we're taking a large section of affordable housing off the market, not just this unit. And I'm not going to ask for any different findings, but I'm going to say that when you develop something that a set of rules that ultimately take out a large sector of what you're trying to create, we made a mistake, and I want to acknowledge that, and that's why my vote will be the way it is.
Councilor Corey?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve ordinance number 2018-2839 and read by title only.
Been moved and seconded that we adopt ordinance 2018-2839 and read by title only. This is the second reading, and that is a roll call vote.
Counselor Johnson?
Let me need to read by title only,
sorry.
please.
Jumped ahead of
City Attorney?
Ordinance number 2018-2839, an ordinance amending the comprehensive plan map designation from medium-density residential, MDR, to high-density residential, HDR, and amending the zoning designation from R2, medium-density residential, to R3, high-density residential, for a property located at 501 and 507 East Illinois Street, Yamhill County, tax lot R3218-DB-03900 and R3218-DB-03800.
City Recorder?
Counselor Johnson?
Yes.
Counselor Corey?
Yes.
Counselor McKinney?
Yes.
Counselor Bacon?
Yes.
Counselor Essen?
No.
Mayor Andrews?
Yes. Motion passes 5-1 with no absences. And with that, we will now move to council business, and I believe council business has been taken care of earlier. Is there anything further to come before the council?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we adjourn.
It has been moved that we adjourn. I hear a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign, none appearing. We are adjourned.
No, I wanted to go on the record that